You are tuned in to the Creative Frequency. Come with us as we explore the creative process with artists from all areas of the creative spectrum. The Creative Frequency starts now. Hi, thanks for tuning back into the Creative Frequency. I'm your host, Kent Tarbox. In this episode, as we do with each episode, if you're familiar with the show, we look into the world of creativity. We ask our guests to share personal experiences, inspirations, maybe roadblocks, different things that they've encountered along their creative journey. We'll talk about tips, insights, maybe something that can help other artists on their journey, and we'll dive into tangents as we progress with the conversation. So, as I typically do, I don't spend a lot of time with wasting your time. What I want to do is introduce our guest. So tonight's guest is Ian Dawson. Ian, tell us about yourself.
My name is Ian Dawson. I come from a line of artists. I like to do my main medium, which is glass, and my other medium, which is metal. I combine the two, and it makes me happy to create works that I have.
Okay. And I ask us, I start this out with when did you discover that you had this desire or you had this ability to create?
Okay, so when I was really little, my mother would teach me clay, and I did that for a while, and I got into my out of it again. I got into my teen years, and I got into drinking in my 20s, and I quit doing it. And when I quit drinking, I didn't know what to do with my life, and that's when I kind of started going towards art because that's what I knew how to do. So um, I started learning and creating, and that became a focus in my life that I like to do. And I'm very fortunate to be able to do that.
Okay. I appreciate that. You say you come from a family of artists, so
Yes,
you had support along the way, right? And you had exposure to art and creativity.
yes. I was pretty much told that, well, you could be an artist because you come from a line of artists. We've all made our living as artists, and that's what you should do. And so I took a crack at it, and then I started on it, and then I evolved from my metal to my glass, and then I started doing photography, and I've done some wood and resin work, and I just enjoy making everything with my hands.
Okay. And that's what we're talking about is this process. I'm interested because you work in a variety of mediums. Um, I know that obviously, and I think the viewers and the listeners know there's a distinct difference between working with metal and working with glass. Are there similarities in working with metal and working with glass?
The heat is the same.
Okay.
The temperature of the reheat chamber that I use with glass is roughly the same temperature of what a forge is with metal. So you heat them about the same. They're completely different materials, but that's the one thing they have in common is the heat.
The
And
heat.
then you have a little time to work with it, and then you have to heat it again and back out and back in. But it's a process, and it's a fun process.
I have to be honest with you, and people have heard this on other episodes because I talked to Sarah Thomas from Bowling Green State University, and she had talked about glass blowing. And my wife and I watched the Netflix show, the Blown Away,
Long way.
and realized that Ryan Thompson was from Toledo, and I'm going to actually try to reach out to him. When I watch you guys work with glass, my level of anxiety is off the charts. I don't know how you work with that hot molten, and I see the newspapers and stuff, and you handling this like there's nothing to it. Was there an initial fear? Do you get over that, or is it just something that was just comfortable for you?
If you burn yourself enough, you stop. It's just, yeah, I mean, you just do whatever you have to do not to do it. No, what it is the more you understand the heat and the more you understand the process and you're getting everything straight and getting everything folded into what you want and everything is it is at first, but then when you figure something out, then it's always the fear of, well, uh, I'm gonna burn myself, but when? Like, I'll go in and some days I won't and some days I will.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
it's like this is what we do.
right. It's amazing. We go. Obviously, we're members of the Toledo Museum of Art. We've been to the Glass Pavilion. We've been to. I've seen him blow glass at Solder. I've seen him blow glass at the Henry Ford. I've seen it at TMA. And my son and I, and that we just stand there. We're like, no. I just and maybe if we did it, maybe if we
I
had the
used
opportunity.
I used to not, and I didn't want to do it because I didn't think I could. But then I did it, and then it's fun doing, and it's actually the opposite when I figured it out, and when I do it, and when I use the paper and everything like that, it's it's more of a peaceful thing because I have anxiety. It calms it down. Because you're spending time that I don't do blown objects because you have to reheat them so often. But when I do an object or do a pattern or whatever I'm doing, um, it's just take your time in doing it because
Mhm.
if you don't, for one, you're gonna come out with something bad. But it's just when you create it, it's so
So, so you get in. If I'm hearing you, it sounds like you get into like a flow state, and
yeah,
you get very. Is it fair to say you get connected to the
yes,
glass, or you get connected to the iron, even, and everything else goes away, right? And
yes.
that's exactly what this process is. That's wonderful. I uh I can do that sometimes if I get into it. I do photography, which is a
I get it.
different kind of flow state.
I took
It
that picture there behind me when
right,
I was in Italy. I love photography too.
yeah. See, it's all this. It's just being creative. It's
Exactly.
just what do you draw inspiration from something? And I'll give you some hints. Like I have a lot of painters that talk about out wandering about in nature. I had Dirty Kicks, Jay Ferguson. He talks about he just goes out and walks about the neighborhood. Where do you draw inspiration from?
Um, Nature helps me. Um, let's see, where do I draw inspiration from? I like to see other beautiful works of art, and that probably draws my inspiration. When I go outside and I see um, architecture, for instance, that's an inspiration to me big time. When I was in Italy, all I did was go around um, and look at the architecture in Venice every day when I was there.
Hmm.
So it's something it's something that I really like to. I'm very drawn from. I should say.
And that's again, I'm always interested where people draw their inspirations. And some people just wake up some days and it's just like, I know I have to do it. Do you have days where you wake up where
Yeah,
you don't do it? You can't get into that flow state, or is this just a daily thing?
there's those days where you don't know what you want to do. I I I look through the internet through pictures of different types of lots of different pictures of every kind of art, and I kind of think in my head what about something that has to do with that for maybe a day or two, and then all of a sudden I know what I want to make, and you make it, and that's what you do, or that's what I do. So you have those days, but I know I'm gonna figure out what I want to make. It just won't be that day.
Right.
So
What comes first? The glass work or the iron metal work, or does it matter?
the glass comes first, so you can put it you can fit the metal to it. But in general, I kind of I can interact different pieces, but that's after they're made. I kind of test and see if they're gonna fit, and sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But
Right.
generally, the piece that I make is for that piece of glass.
Is there
Uh,
uh, how do I want to ask that? When you're looking at the glass, is there, and you say you don't blow glass, and I know this much
I
about glass. Um,
I
are
I
there
do blow glass. I just prefer not. I
okay.
can. I can do cups. I can do glasses. I can do some vases. I just prefer not to.
Right.
So
Okay.
okay.
I get, and I shoot 99% of my photos in black and white because I don't do color.
Yeah. I got you.
And I get chastised. So I understand it. I've got a method. I've got a favorite I go to. Um, when you're not blowing, when you're working with the more solid, are there particular shapes or forms that you're more attracted to? Is it a conical type form? Is it a cylinder? How does that form manifest itself?
I like patterns.
Okay.
So I find in discs in marbles that I do, I could put my pattern into those and make something really nice. I've been to Sutter Village too, and I know Mark Matthews, and his marbles are absolutely amazing. But I believe that I could make a marble that was pretty nice. That was just a basic color, then the basic design, but executed very well,
Right.
or maybe a couple colors. So that's what I focus towards, I guess.
When you're working, is it a, and I've seen it, like I said, my glass blowing knowledge is limited. Is this a solo venture for you? Is it a collaborative venture? Do you work with other artists in the hot shop, or is this just, tell me a
I
little
did
bit
it.
about that.
Okay, I did it by myself. I worked with my friend Tim, um, and he taught me some stuff, and I just learned from people along the way, and I took some classes. Don't get me wrong. I went to BGSU for one semester, and I kind of learned doing a plate and doing a glass and doing a bowl in there, and I kind of
Mhm.
went off on my own from there. So
Right.
um, I went to Italy in 2023 to Murano to watch them what they do, and I went there in 2025. I asked them if I could assist, and I went there and assisted for 2 months this year, and then I went there for a month in September, and I'm going back in March. This.
Hmm.
So I learned over there as well.
Right. I
So
noticed I on your Facebook page, and for those that are listening and watching, we're gonna, when the episode's over and it gets published, there'll be links where you can reach out and communicate with Ian, and you can see his work. I know you mentioned. I see here you mentioned Pilchuck and Corning, and I lived in Seattle, and I've been to Pilchuck, and I'm familiar with Chihuly, obviously, in the glass world, and I've been to the Chihuly Museum out in Seattle, and we've watched a lot of, and I've seen his work everywhere we go. Every museum has a Chihuly piece in it somewhere. Um,
yeah,
when you go to these workshops and you go to places like Pilchuck or you go to Corning or Murano, is when you come back from that, do you feel more creative or is it just this continuing growth and continuing experience that allows you to want to go out and try other things that maybe you wouldn't try?
Uh, well, first of all, I've never been out in Seattle.
Okay.
I have been to Corning though, and I've
Okay.
took old shop classes at Corning. And that when I was done with that, it took me to a whole new level of what I like to do, you know. And um, I find a lot of I would like to take more cold shop classes and learn more about it. And when I was in Italy, I watched some cold shopping get done, and it really fascinates me. There's two worlds to the glass. So there's the whole, glass blowing, and then there's glass, and then there's with the cold shop, and a lot of people don't like it, and some people really do, and some people really don't, but they want to make something beautiful, and they know it'll come out to something beautiful. So, um,
When go ahead.
I was gonna say I would like to learn more and do more and explore more. I'd like to learn some kiln work and some hot glass and things like that.
Where does then you said and you combine the metal, so you make the glass and then you work the metal. When you're at some of these workshops, do you find other people that are incorporating other mediums into their glass work, or is that kind of are you a little bit of an outlier in that aspect that you're kind of doing both? Um, do you see that crossover?
Once in a while, I'm very limited in workshops and classes, by the way, but I have been to some. I prefer basically it came down to this. When I was in college, I paid 1,700 for the first semester, and I said that's silly. I've graduated before. I spent the money for the next semester going to Murano and learning over there, and kind of I want to. There's people that want to pass the torch down to other people, and people want to teach their friends, and so I I learn from people that are excited about teaching me because they're excited that I'm excited about learning.
Right. And
So
then so what I'm hearing, and I think this is wonderful, is that you feel deeply I don't want to use the term responsible, but you're very appreciative of having this passed on to you. And then I assume then at some point in time you're going to want to take this legacy and pass it on to others as you continue to grow. Is that a fair statement?
yes, yeah, of course. There's no point in taking things to the grave if you don't pass it on. What's the point of learning it, right?
Okay. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I
So I
like
mean,
that.
somebody told me that and it made perfect sense to me. If you don't pass on the knowledge, what's the point of it?
Right.
You're making it work, but then what? Then
Right.
it's over.
How do you feel about showing your work? Do you have any when you put your work out there? Because it takes any artist, any creator, anybody. I've always maintained it takes a level of courage to present your work, and especially if it's open for critique. Was that something you had to overcome, or do you just put it out there and
I
here it is?
just I just kind of was like, here it is. You didn't like it or you don't, and and people like it. Some people, oh, I don't like this or I don't like that or I don't like this. Like if it's somebody that's more knowledgeable than me, then I'll listen. Or maybe even not as knowledgeable as me. And you know, any idea is an idea. Now, I usually work with artists that are outside of glass. I work with some painters, and they actually have some ideas for me too. With
Mhm.
That helps a lot with color and things like that. So I'm working with my friend Manny, he does. You know the Mudhead statue downtown?
Mm-hmm.
I'm working with him.
Oh, okay.
We're creating some pieces. He has some pieces in Cosby Gardens too. So
Right.
Emmanuel Enriquez.
Okay.
So I'm excited to come out with that, and he says, "Well, you have to do it like this," and I'm like, "Well, that's a good idea." So he tells me, he says, "Don't get too cute with it," and I have that in my head when I work with things. And so I'm like, well, like less is more, and you don't need to do all that fancy crap to it. Just leave it alone, and it comes out better, you know. So
It's interesting. My wife and I we watch a lot of art shows and things, and portrait artists and painters. When you watch these different shows and their competitions, the thing that they always struggle with is knowing when to stop and knowing when it's done. Do you
my
have that issue? Do you know when it's done? Does the piece tell you it's done, or do you
my
just
um, I have my T-shirt. You know who Jimmy Rito is?
no, I do not. I can't say
It's,
that I do.
he ran the museum in 1980, glass department with Leonard Marty. So he teaches me, and he says, just step away from something. Even if you have to step away from it for a day, you'll figure it out. Just when you get back to it, you'll figure it out. And I have that in my head, and I do. So, just like, well, you know, I find that if I get too into it, I do bad with it. So it's best to walk away and come back to it. So,
Do I think it's fair to say, and I'm going to ask you if you agree with this. Do you think sometimes there's a lot of people, um, and even as create we overcomplicate it. We make it more complicated than it needs to be
yes, all the time.
all the time.
But
I
yeah,
hear that a lot.
here's what I don't know if I figured this out or if I just and I told one of my friends this too. He puts a lot of elements into his class, lots of elements. I said, listen, you don't need all those elements. You put in one element, you put in two elements, and you execute it well, and that's all you need. Sometimes you only need one, and you execute it perfectly, and people think it's great. You
Right.
know, and I said, take it from five elements and make it three elements and combine them somehow. And whether you take my advice, I don't know, but you know,
Well, I
I feel,
appreciate that kind of sentiment
yeah,
because my work, I lend myself more towards minimalism. I'm much more of a minimalist, and I see that in work that I do,
yeah.
and I don't like to add a lot of elements to things as well. I like it. Yeah, we all have our tastes. I appreciate that. Um, do you ever do you ever work sometimes and just feel like you don't belong, or are you past that now?
You mean I wonder if people are gonna like what I'm doing or not, or
More like, well, the term, a lot of times artists and that get hung up in imposter syndrome, where
no, big time.
yeah, there's a lot of self doubt in being a creative. What?
People
Go ahead.
think I can answer this. Like, I people think that I'm better than I think that I am. That's a good answer, I think, for that. So, uh, I, I, I always think that people are gonna do this and do that. But I mean, I'm in recovery. I've been to the bottom. I'm not worried about what people think about my art.
Right.
You know, I've
Right.
been to the worst of everything. The worst somebody's gonna do is tell me I made an ugly sculpture. So be it. You know. So
I fully understand that. I fully appreciate that. I I have some background and stuff as well. And the one thing I've learned in my creative process. And I'll tell people this too. It took me. I really didn't even refer to myself as an artist until maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and I'm in my 60s.
Yeah,
And and I have worked enough and been engaged in enough shows, and I'm a trustee on the board at the Findlay Art League, and I've been involved in photo shows and that I've learned a few things, and one of them is if you're going to do this, you're going to get a thick skin. Okay, got that.
yeah,
Two, you're never going to know if you're in a juried show or something what a judge thinks. So get over that. And the biggest thing I've learned, and this is what I'm hearing from you, I think, and I've heard from a lot of other people, I'm at a point now, I'm going to create, I'm going to make, and I'm going to put it out there. You're going to like it. You're not going to like it. You
sure.
don't like it. Doesn't change my life any.
So there's one thing about a jury show. There's a 3D artist, and it's nothing against 2D artists, but I do 2D artists,
Right.
2D art as well. So um, always enter in the 3D category, where the 2D is separate from the 3D, and all the 2D and 3D artists will agree on that, and even the 2D artists that win agree on it too. That we
Right.
should have our own category. We should, because it's completely different, you know. So
Oh, listen, as a
yeah,
photographer,
yeah,
and my background is I've been a contract photojournalist. So I come
okay,
from I'm a big non-Photoshop guy, right? First of all, I
yeah,
suck in Photoshop. Okay.
yeah,
Two is I want it to be real. I'm more of a documentarian, and I've been in photo shows where I've seen photos win landscape categories where the landscape doesn't exist. They took 5 different photos and composited them together, which is art in its own right, but it needs to be in a separate category. It needs to be
yeah,
identified. This is a
exactly.
composite.
Yeah,
This is straight out of the camera. And I'm sure that that exists in a lot of other arenas. And I
like
don't go ahead.
here's a perfect example. I won a juror award at the Ohio State Fair in 2024 with a piece of metal and glass. A, it was a 3D category, and B, it was of anything that was 3D. So there's like, I don't know, 5 pieces of glass in there. I was the only person in the professional and in the amateurs that had metal and glass in the entire thing, and there were over 1,500 entries. So,
Wow.
so yeah, this is a pretty. I was pretty honored to be into that.
Right.
It's very humbling that somebody liked my stuff like that. You know, it's a good feeling. So, um, I don't know. I guess I kind of got off topic with that. So,
No, that's okay. That's what we're here for. That because there is no,
yeah,
if anything, there is no one way to do this. There is no one blueprint. There is no one formula.
yeah,
Um, I talked to a person the her session releases here in a couple of weeks where she's been out of college for 6 months and she's hardly created anything. She's just burnt. She's just like, I did all
yeah,
this in college under a deadline. I'm trying to find my way now. I'm trying to find how to do this process without being mandated by an instructor and a deadline and a grade. And that all has its place. And I'm not taking anything away from education, but once we get out here and we start doing this in the creative world, we have to find our own way. And there is no, and at least I've not found it. There is no one way to do that.
yeah,
I think you would agree with that.
yeah. There's like with a glass, for instance. There's one guy showed me one way, and I didn't do it that way, and he didn't like it, but I did it my way. My way worked too.
Right.
There's all kinds of different ways to do something. Just with everything. So, like, take the basic heart of a shape. There's every glass blower does it differently. Every artist does it differently. Everybody does it different. Some
Right.
people do, put it off center. Some people don't, so uh,
And a lot of time, and there's room for all of it. And
yeah,
and that's where I draw the line sometimes with people. I'm like, look, there's room for all of this. Okay.
yes,
And let's appreciate the process and let's appreciate the creativity.
yeah, of
If
course.
if you were going to get an opportunity to give a piece or two of advice to somebody starting their creative journey at any age, whatever, what would you like somebody to know about the creative process?
That they should I put this? Think of what you liked to do when you were a kid, kind of. Like my thing was art. And what did I like to do with it when I was that way? And why did I get away from it? Or like with photography, I've taken pictures my whole life. I've never had a class in it ever,
Right.
but I've taken pictures my whole life. And the only reason I take such good shots is because my camera phone is better than my Nikon. And back in the day, we had disposables. There's disposables like the camera phones now. I would have probably taken nice pictures back then too.
Right.
So, that I mean, just uh, go for it's just something you really like. Go for it. Sometimes something that you don't like, but you know you'll be good at it. Go for that too. I mean, there's all kinds of things, and there's all kinds of outlets that I didn't know that I had either. Like, um, I didn't know about my creativity with wood and resin, and I could make something. I took these right here, these galvanized pipe legs from
Right.
Home Depot, and I engineered the table. And
Right.
I engineered a table because one of my mentors told me to engineer a table. And so I did it. I said, okay, fine. Challenge accepted. Like, I'm probably going to figure it out or I'm not. And mathematically, I figured it out because there's every inch of galvanized pipe at Home Depot you can find. So, and there's every kind of gadgets, and I had returned things a couple different times. My mathematics were off, and so,
So what I'm
but
hearing, and
it's fun.
it's fun, right? And
Yeah,
I love the one part you said there is that remember what you liked to do as a kid.
yeah,
And I my journey was somewhat similar. I did photography in the 70s, which
yeah.
and people are tired of hearing this on here, but I don't care. I'm going to say it again that if you had a camera, I had a Nikon 35 millimeter film Nikon, and man, you were a rock star. If I couldn't play guitar, so I had a camera.
Yeah.
And because not everybody had cameras then, not like today where everybody has a camera with their phone. And I learned how to develop black and white film, and you could do something that was unique. And then I got away from it. Life happens, things happen. Got back into it probably in my 30s, and never looked back. Um, and I do think sometimes too. I still remember, picking that camera up the first time, going, I like this. This feels right. And
Yeah,
and and that's what I'm hearing from you. I want to say I appreciate you, Ian. We're gonna get close to the wrapping it up here. I appreciate you taking the time
yeah,
to
of
sit
course.
down with me and talk with us and explain your journey to us. And I'm going to give you an opportunity here if there's any last piece of advice or something you want to say to everybody. You know, please share.
Um, Helping people will help you. That's what it helps me.
Okay.
So, meaning that making beautiful art and making beautiful things makes people happy, and it makes me happy that they're happy. and it's just a good outlet. So that's
Right.
pretty much what I'd have to say.
So the under thread I get with that too is community.
Yeah.
Is the community is important.
It's nice to leave some kind of a legacy. So, because what we have that we have made is all that we have that's out there anymore about us. Anything that we write is all that people will know about us.
Right.
Anything on the internet is all that people will know about us. So, yeah, I guess it would be important just because if you have a message to say, then by all means. Like I donate to Acoustics for Autism last year and this year, and and raise money for them. And I at the same time that I was building the sculpture for them, I was building the sculpture for somebody else. So it doesn't take that much effort to do something nice. Is I guess my point.
I
So
love that. I love that.
yeah,
I can't do any better than that. We're gonna leave on that point. I
Hey,
like that. So Ian,
thanks.
I want to thank you again for your time.
You're
I
welcome.
appreciate it. And everybody out there that listens, please check the show notes so that you can see how you can connect with Ian on Instagram and on Facebook and support your artists and support each other in the creative process. Thanks again for tuning into the Creative Frequency.
Hey.
Thank you for tuning into the Creative Frequency. You know what to do. Like, follow, and subscribe. Then join us again for the next episode of the Creative Frequency.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.